So our next, the goods and services tax GST regime has had mixed results with its share of challenges and achievements. Critically examine the performance of the GST regime and suggest some possible reforms. This question is from GS paper 3 and we need to write the answer within 250 words. So GST. GST is defined as value-added tax levied on most goods and services sold for domestic consumptions. Then we can see that GST, the concept of one nation and one tax, including everything. This from this figure, you can see we had luxury tax, entry tax, local tax, octroi, VAT, CST, excise duty, entertainment. Now, one nation, one tax that will be under GST. So let's come to the answering section. Goods and service tax is one indirect tax for the whole nation, which will make India one unified common market. So first of all, GST is what? One indirect tax, and that will make India one unified common market. GST is a single tax on the supply of goods and services right from the manufacturer to the consumer. Credits of input taxes paid at each stage will be available in the subsequent stage of the value addition, which makes GST essentially a tax only on value addition at each stage. The final consumer will thus bear only the GST charged by the last dealer in the supply chain with set of benefits at all the previous stages. So try to conceptualize the fact. First of all, GST is a single tax on the supply of the goods and services from the manufacturer to consumer. Then credit of input taxes paid at each stage will be available in the subsequent stages of value addition, because a product right from the manufacturing stage, then marketing stage, then coming to that retailer shop, then to us, the consumers. So at every stage, some value additions are there. Yes or no? So that's why it is said that credits of input taxes paid at each stage will be available in the subsequent stage of value addition. That makes GST essentially a tax only on the value addition at each stage. The final consumer will thus bear only the GST charged by the last dealer in the supply chain with set of benefits at all the previous stages. GST is an indirect tax system. Just a minute. GST is an indirect system that was rolled out on 1st July 2017. The Comptroller and Auditor General of India, CAG, has pointed out lacunae in the GST regime, saying that the system validated input tax credit through invoice matching is not in place, and a non-intrusive e-tax system still remains elusive. Now, performance of the GST regime. Introduced as one of the biggest economic reforms by the incumbent government, the GST kicked off with the promise to streamline the taxation and the compliance burden. Based on the one nation, one tax ideology, GST has helped in reducing the cascading effect of tax considerably. This point, again, I find very interesting. First, this is the one nation, one tax ideology, and that will help exactly what? Reducing the cascading effect of tax considerably. Cascading effect of tax. Mane, itur uporat hitu. Right? So also multiplicity multiplicity of compliances under various indirect taxes has been now reduced. over 63.9 lakh taxpayers migrated into the GST in 1st July, means in July 2017. This number has more than doubled to over 1.38 crore taxpayers as of June 2022. So, আৰম্ভণি 63.9 lakh taxpayers যিসকল জুলাই 2017 GST এডপ্ট কৰি লৈছিল, মাইগ্ৰেট কৰি আহিছিল GST লৈ, সেইসকল সংখ্যাটো এতিয়া 1.38 crore বেছি হৈ গ'ল. That is almost double than the initial amount of 63.9 lakhs. So that indicates the trust of the taxpayer on GST system. The total gross collection for 2022-23 stands at 18.10 lakh crore, and the average gross monthly collection for the full year is 1.51 lakh crore. The gross revenues in 2022-23 were 22% higher than of the last year. Hence, introduction of GST in India has brought in efficiencies in indirect tax compliance incidents and reduced the number of indirect tax authorities that the taxpayer needed to interact with. মই ভাবো যে এই লাইনটোৰ বহুতেই প্ৰয়োজন আনসাৰ ৰাইটিংটোত, যে GST ইন্ট্ৰডাকশ্যনৰ লগে লগে ইনডাইৰেক্ট টেক্স যিটো কমপ্লায়েন্স আছিল, ইনডাইৰেক্ট টেক্স যিটো আছিল চিষ্টেম আছিল, সেইটোৰ এফিচিয়েঞ্চি বহুত বাঢ়ি গ'ল, আৰু যাৰ জৰিয়তে ইনডাইৰেক্ট টেক্সৰ মাজত যিমানখিনি আছিল, যাৰ লগত টেক্সপেয়াৰ ইণ্টাৰেক্ট কৰিবলগীয়া হৈছিল, সেইখিনি নাম্বাৰটো ৰিডিউচ হ'ল. So we have to write like that. Introduction of GST in India has brought in efficiencies in indirect tax compliance and incidents and reduced the number of indirect tax authorities that the taxpayer needed to interact with it. আমি পজিটিভ এফেক্টৰ কথা গাই আছো, আমি পজিটিভ এফেক্ট লিখি আছো, so আমি পজিটিভলি কিছুমান কথা লিখিবই লাগিব. Then another positive is the concept of e-invoicing, which seeks to ensure greater transparency in the supplier-receiver transaction. The introduction of e-way bill, coupled with the crackdown of fake invoicing, has helped in bringing in a substantial portion of GST revenues which were either being evaded or underreported in order. So ক'বলৈ গ'লে it is actually means dealing with that corruption that earlier happened also, because e-way bill coupled with the crackdown on fake invoicing now helping to bring a substantial portion of GST revenues, যিটো নেকি আগতে either evade আছিল কৰি পেলোৱা হৈছিল বা underreported আছিল. Over 53 lakhs taxpayers and 67,000 transporters are enrolled on the e-way portal, generating on average 7.81 crore e-way bills per month. So 67,000 transporters are enrolled on the e-way portal, and then the taxpayer over 50 lakhs. So that is actually generating on an average 7.81 crore e-way bills per month. Since the launch of the system, a total of 292 crore e-way bills have been generated, of which 42% are for the interstate transport of the goods. So 292 crore e-way bills, among that 42% for the interstate transport of the goods. GST has eliminated the tax arbitrage that existed among the states under the CST VAT regime. So tax arbitrage to eliminate হৈ গৈছে. Increase in logistics supply chain with no such arbitrage under the IGST, and with the e-way bills, the logistics supply chain efficiencies have increased manifold. Again, this is a very good or positive effect of GST. that through IGST now this tax arbitrage problem been eliminated, and that way it is encouraging the logistic supply chains efficiencies. Next, in the pre-GST regime, on most items, the combined center and the states rates were more than 31%. But under the GST, the rates of 400 goods and 80 services have been reduced. The highest 28% is restricted to scene and luxury items only. আগতকৈ এতিয়াতো মানে 31% কম বুলি ক'ব পাৰি, কাৰণ আগতে কম্বাইন চেণ্টাৰ ষ্টেটছ এই গোটেইবিলাক মিলাই পেলাই 31% বেছি আছিল। নাও GSTৰ আণ্ডাৰত 400 গুডছ আৰু 80 চাৰ্ভিচ যিমানখিনি আছে সেইখিনিত বহুত ৰিডিউচ হৈ গৈছে, মানে ইন কম্পেৰিজন টু দ্য pre-GST regime, আৰু highest 28% rate is restricted to the scene and luxury items only. Out of a total of 230 items which were in the 28% slab, this 28% slab actually we are talking about, close to 200 have been shifted to the lower slabs. Special attention has been paid to the needs of the micro, small, and medium enterprises. Their tax and compliance burden be kept low. Equally, it was important to ensure that they remain integrated with the supply chains for the purpose of IT, right? The enhancement of the threshold exemption limit from rupees 20 lakh to rupees 40 lakhs for goods. Introduction of the quarterly returns and monthly payments scheme, that is QRMP scheme, which has the potential to benefit 89% of the taxpayers. So, ekhini benefit poa goise. Now, ekhini ami positive effect discuss korilu. Now, let's come to the issues with respect to various issues with respect to goods and service tax regime. First, the breakdown of trust and cooperative federalism between states and the union government. The breakdown of trust and cooperative federalism between states and Indian government. What happened? It turned out to be prescient as GST failed to live up to its economic promises, and states' revenues were protected through this guarantee, despite finance attempt to wriggle out of this commitment during the pandemic under the alibi of an act of God. সেই যে কৰোনাৰ সময়ত যিখিনি আহিছিল ষ্ট্ৰেছ তাৰ বিষয়ে ইয়াত কোৱা হৈছে, the Indian government's proclivity to levy and appropriate cess revenues for itself without sharing them with the states have lent credence to the wisdom of guaranteed compensation for the states. This currency is now set to expire. So, GST eta criticism hoise yar jitu amar cooperative federalismot hobo lage jitu trust মানে state আৰু union governmentor hetu breakdown হোৱা বুলি, কাৰণ jitu কোভিডৰ সময়ত এটা এক্সট্ৰা ষ্ট্ৰেছ আহি গৈছিল ষ্টেটৰ ওপৰত, সেইটোৰ ওপৰত এটা যিটো ৰেহাই দিয়াৰ কথা আছিল, কি সেয়াৰ ৰেহাই সঁচাকৈ পোৱা গ'ল নে? কাৰণ দিছ guarantee is already set to expire. So এইটো এটা good kind of criticism we have to say. Now, that the recent Supreme Court judgment highlighting that the GST Council's recommendations are not binding on the states. The Supreme Court recently observed that it is in the national interest to have both cooperative and competitive federalism. Hence, GST Council's decisions are not binding on the states. This means that states had and continue to have the right to either comply fully with the Council's recommendation or modify them as they deem necessary. And this has opened the window for the states to override the fundamental GST promise of a one nation, one tax, and that if pursued to a corner, states may now use the Supreme Court ruling as a shield. Now, what happened? Etia Supreme Court as jihetu state GST কাউন্সিলৰ ডিচিশন খিনি বাইণ্ডিং কৰিবই লাগিব বুলি বাট মানে মানিবই লাগিব বুলি যিটো আছিল সেইটো উঠাই দিছে সেইটো কাৰণে কি হৈছে যিটো কনচেপ্টৰ ভিতৰত GST টো অনা হৈছিল যিটো কাস্কেডিং এফেক্ট অফ টেক্সেছ অতৰাৰ কাৰণে GST প্ৰমিছ কৰা হৈছিল সেইটোতো আৰু কম্পাইল নহ'ব কাৰণ ষ্টেটে যদি বিচাৰে নিজাববীয়াকে আমাৰ যিটো চেণ্টাৰ যিটো GST কাউন্সিলৰ টেক্স আছে সেইটো অভাৰৰাইড কৰিব পাৰিব চ' এইটো এটা ভাবিবলগীয়া কথা হৈ গৈছে যে সুপ্ৰিম কোৰ্ট ৰিচেণ্ট অবজাৰভেশ্যন অফ দেট GST is now GST Council's decisions are now not binding on the states. So this is really a questionable. Then again, expiry of the revenue guarantee that protected states' revenues. GST is too precariously parsed to yank away the compensation guarantee for states. The union government is not desirous of extending the compensation guarantee. এই compensation guarantee আগতে যিটো কৰা হৈছিল সেইটোৰ প্ৰতি এতিয়া চেন্ট্ৰেল গভৰ্ণমেণ্টৰ মানে কিমানটা ডিভোশ্যন দেখা পোৱা নাই সেইটো ইয়াত মেনশ্যন কৰিছে then difficulty in tax administration goes against the canons of taxation. A modern tax system should be fair, uncomplicated, transparent, and easy to administer. It must yield revenue sufficient to cover the cost of government services and public goods. Lack of clarity on many rules is also leading to various litigations and different interpretations by advanced ruling authorities in different systems. So lack of clarity on many rules is leading to various litigation and interpretation problem by advanced ruling authorities in different states. Then complicated taxation structure. A World Bank study published in May 2018 said that the Indian GST rate was the second highest among the 115 that is 115 countries with a national value added tax. So GST World Bank or study mode koise je second highest. Now, it was also the most complicated with 5 main tax rates, several exemptions, a cess, and a special rate for gold. The multi-layered lender said that only 5 countries had 4 or more non-zero tax rates: India, Italy, Pakistan, Luxembourg, and Ghana. Falling revenue amid disruption caused by the COVID-19 pandemic has continuously delayed the reform, leaving a large number of items in high tax slabs. Then high compliance costs are also arising because the prevalence of multiple tax rates implies a need to classify inputs and outputs based on the applicable tax rate. Along with the need to apply the correct rate, firms are required to match invoices between their outputs and inputs to be eligible for more full input tax credit, which increases compliance's cost further. Then GNC Council meetings. The meetings of the GST councils are not as frequent as they were earlier. If the recent incidents are anything to go by, and it often ends up with disagreement, fight, and strong letters and statements. States have also accused the center of cornering a substantial portion of tax in the form of cess. There has been lack of coordination of the Department of Revenue, the Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs, and the GST network. So Department of Revenue, Central Board of Indirect Tax and Custom, and GST network majoto coordination দেখা পোৱা গৈছে তো এইখিনি problem এইখিনি issues অতৰাবলৈ আমি কি কৰিব লাগিব what will be the way forward the first target should be to move to at least a 3-rate structure: a lower rate for essential goods, a relatively high rate for luxury goods, and a standard rate for the majority of goods and services. So 3-rate structure system should be adopted: lower rate for essential goods, high relatively high rate for luxury goods, and standard rate for majority of goods and services. Next step would be simplifying the tax return process. tax return process should be a simple one. Then the scope of lowering the GST is umbilically linked to the direct tax reform. So scope of lowering the GST rates is umbilically linked to the direct tax reform, and a better way to make taxation more just is by lowering regressive indirect tax rates while widening the base for progressive direct tax on income and corporate profits. So it is again a very good, very, appropriate way to make a tax system more just, that lower the regressive indirect tax rates and widen the base for progressive direct tax on income and corporate profits. The government needs to establish GST tribunals to reduce litigation timeline and the pressure on the court. So GST tribunals should be established. Then the state authorities for advanced ruling should be ideally also have an independent juris member apart from a representative from the tax department. So the state authorities for advanced ruling should also have an independent juris member. Then many goods are still outside the GST net, which come in the way of seamless flow of input tax credit. Key items outside of it ambit are electricity, alcohol, petroleum goods, and real estate. This aspect need to be also looked into. Then emulating the best practices, the GST in New Zealand, widely regarded as the most efficient one in the world, has a single standard rate of 12.5% across all industry groups. So we should study their GST system, and if possible, to adopt the better ones or better approaches in our system also. The 15th Finance Commission, in its latest report, has addressed many issues, including large shortfall in collections as compared to original forecasts, high volatility in collections, accumulation of large integrated GST credit, glitches in invoice and input tax matching, and delay in refunds. The Commission also observed that the continuing dependencies of states on compensation from the central government for making up for the shortfall in revenue is a concern. So continuing dependence of states on compensation from central government, obviously a kind of concern noticed by our 15th Finance Commission. While at the same time, it is suggested that the structural implications of GST for low consumption states need to be considered. Now, how we will conclude this conclusion? While the GST's journey has given its stakeholders and some causes to celebrate, it has also given moments of worry. So GST has given its stakeholders some causes to celebrate, but at the same time, some moments of worry. But then, no transformation of the scale and complexity can be achieved without its share of hiccups and challenges. The process of evolution will take a few years more for the mammoth structural change to stabilize. The 4-year journey of GST has been a roller coaster ride for all stakeholders, with equitable share of hits and misses and expectation. A work in progress in its transformational journey, GST suffers from several shortcomings which need to be resolved quickly, but its journey to good and simple tax is still quite long. So in short, we can say that it takes some time to have a good revolutionary system. That system which will be well accepted throughout the federal system, and GST wants us kind of approach. Yes, it may take time, but it will go through some kinds of hiccups and challenges. But in that way, in that feedback and criticisms, we can make the GST a better, good and simple tax, and that may take long time, but we cannot say that it is not possible. So in that way, we can conclude the answer for this particular question on GST. Okay, can we come to the next question? Oh, okay, you said yes, then let's come to the next question. Analyze the challenges faced by gig workers and propose measures to acknowledge their contributions and offer them social security. This is again a question from the GS paper 3. আৰু এই কুৱেশ্যনটোত গিগ ৱৰ্কাৰ্ছসকলে ফেচ কৰা চেলেঞ্জেছ বিলাক এনালাইজ কৰিবলৈ কৈছে। আজিকালি আমি দেখো যে খুব বহুত সহজতে আমি যি বিচাৰো তাক ঘৰত উপলব্ধি বা ঘৰত উপলব্ধ হোৱাটো বিচাৰো বা পাওঁ। তেনেকৈ এই খাবলৈ মন গৈছে অনলাইন অৰ্ডাৰ কৰিলে, বা এই ক'ৰবাত যাব মন গৈছে আমি ওলা বা কেব এনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ বুক কৰিব পাৰো। But we have to think in other ways also, whether these gig workers are safe in the sense social security wise. So this question will give us an idea about that. Gig workers or gig workforce in India. Niti Aayog in its report, India's booming gig and platform economy said that gig workforce in India is expanding. As of 2019-20, the sectors employed like this: education, manufacturing, finance and insurance, transportation, retail, trade and sales. You can see the largest share. And you can see the skill-wise share, like 47% in medium skill job, 31% low skill job, 22% high skill job. So let's come to the introduction part. According to Oxford Internet Institute's online labor index, India leads the global gig economy with a 24% share of the online labor market. So India's share is 24%. That's a good one, right? A gig economy is a free market system in which temporary positions are common and organization contract with the independent worker for short-time engagement. Examples of gig employees in the workforce could include freelancers, independent contractors, project-based workers, and temporary or part-time hires. So how it is defined? Gig economy is a free market system in which temporary positions are common and organization contract with independent workers for short-time engagement. This is the definition. The Rajasthan government's proposed Rajasthan platform-based gig workers registration and welfare bill 2023, which will introduce a welfare board, is a step toward ensuring the welfare of gig workers. For gig workers, working conditions have become increasingly harsh, with gig workers not recognized as workers and lacking any social security or related benefits. So that is really a good approach from the Rajasthan government side, that which proposed Rajasthan platform-based gig workers registration and welfare bill 2023, because we have to think about their social security. If they are also workers, but they are not recognized as workers, so what about their social security? So issues faced by gig economy workers. This workforce has limited employment rights like minimum wages, health benefits, sick leaves, even retirement benefits to fall back on. Then also the payment is assured only on the completion of the project, giving a sense of financial insecurity. Because if you complete the project, then only you will get the payment. That implies what? Financial insecurity. The lack of any kind of protection was also deterring several talented workers against participating in this economy. No stable and secure employment. The so-called jobs do not provide any kind of health insurance, no pay for overtime, with no sick leave. Then lack of income security. There is no room for wage negotiation, and unions are absent. In the gig economy, job creation should be seen as the provision of livelihood for entrepreneurs. Grievance redressal mechanism. For instance, when Ola and Uber started cutting back the incentives, the drivers in Mumbai decided to go on strike, but there was no clarity against whom they were striking. When the strikers agitated at the local transport commissioner office, he had to tell them that he did not regulate the hail a taxi business. The central government recently passed the Social Security Code, which could cover the gig workers as well. One of the key proposals includes the creation of a social security fund, which is around 1% of the aggregator's annual turnover. This fund would be primarily for the welfare of the unorganized and gig workforce. Now, regulation of gig economy. Constant upskilling and reskilling is required for such talents to stay in the industry relevant and market ready. A categorical clarification could ensure that social security measures are provided to the workers without compromising the touted qualities of platform work. Countries must come together to set up a platform to extend their labor protection to the workforce who are working part-time in their country. Companies employing the workforce on a temporary basis should also be made responsible to contribute to their insurance and social obligation other than just their tax commitment. There is a need for socio-legal acknowledgement of the heterogeneity of the work in the gig economy and the ascription of joint accountability to the state and platform companies for the delivery of social services. So this kind of socio-legal acknowledgement should be there. And in the Code on Social Security 2020, platform workers are now eligible for benefits. Actualizing these benefits will depend on the political will at the central and state government levels and how unions elicit the political supports. So platform workers eligible with respect to the Code on the Social Security 2020. So it will depend totally on the state government-wise and central government-wise whether they are properly covering these gig workers on that platform or not. So what will be the way forward? The government needs to come out with some more regulation to protect the workforce of the gig economy. Also, at present, there is no mechanism to address the issue of redress of disputes. It could also mean countries come together to set up a platform to extend their labor protection to the workforce who are working part-time in the country. So that's to the means protection, labor protection, not just for the full-time employees. That should also be available or applicable for the part-time workers also, because they are also means our workforce. Now we have to protect their wills, we have to protect their security. So the countries should build up such platform which will cover part-time workers also. Companies employing the workforce on a temporary basis should also be made responsible to contribute to their insurance and social obligation other than just their tax commitment. Yes, companies should be made responsible that they have to take care of the insurance facilities of the gig workers and also the social obligations. So just mere going for their tax commitment is not going to work now. The companies have to look after their insurance or social security purposes also. Now, how we will conclude? Conclusion is the scope of the gig economy in a country like India is enormous. The government needs to come out with comprehensive legislation to empower and motivate many to take this path. The gig economy and its workforce cannot be overlooked when we talk about the future of the employment. With a population of over 1.3 billion and a majority of them below the age of 35, relying on the gig economy is perhaps the only way to create employment for a large semi-skilled and unskilled workforce. Therefore, it is important to handhold this sector and help it grow. We need policies and processes that give clarity to the way the sector should function. That way, we can conclude about gig economy, security of the gig workers. So as far as statistics are concerned, these are some value addition. Human resources firm team list that estimates that 13 lakh Indian joined gig economy in the last half of 18-19, registering 30% growth compared to the first half of the fiscal year. Better Place, a digital platform that does background verification and skill development in the informal sector, estimates that that of the 21 lakh jobs will be created in the metros in 1920, 14 lakhs will be in the gig economy. Food and e-commerce delivery will account for 8 lakh positions, and drivers will account for nearly 6 lakh positions. That report also says this, based on the 11 lakh profiles in over 1,000 companies. So 8 lakh position create hobo already hoise. Delhi, Bengaluru, and other metros are expected to be the highest drivers of this sector, and 2/3 of these workforce will be under the age of 40. Itu eta good demographic benefit of for the India. So এইখিনি কাৰ ৰিপৰ্টৰ মতে হিউমেন ৰিসোর্স ফার্ম টিম লিজৰ মতে 13 লাখ ইন্ডিয়ান অলৰেডি জইন গিগ ইকনমি। এইখিনি যদি আমি পুট কৰিব পাৰোঁ আমাৰ আনসাৰ ৰাইটিঙত, আমাৰ আনসাৰ ৰাইটিঙৰ যিটো এটা ষ্টেণ্ডাৰ্ড অবভিয়াছলি সেইটো বাঢ়িব আৰু ইট উইল স্ক'ৰ অৰ ইট উইল ব্ৰিং মোৰ মাৰ্কছ, ৰাইট? So that's it. With this, I'm concluding this session. We'll meet you in the next session with the next question. Thank you. Bye-bye.